So, I want to know. Obviously, we're hot off of Oilers Leafs, January 5th, 2022. So, second game of the year, I guess, for the Leafs of the calendar year. 4-2 win over the Edmonton Oilers. What's your hot take? We're one takeaway from that game that kind of stands out to you?
You know what? Wasn't the best game the Leafs have ever played, but I think they're in such a good place now. They're full of confidence. There's nobody dragging their heels. I have so much confidence in that team. With Jack Campbell, he must think he's going to win every game going in. Um, I think it for the first time probably in my life. I don't know if they could ever lose a game. I have so much confidence against every team that they play. They can roll four lines very, very good and get contributions up and down the lineup. And when you get Mikheyev coming back, boy, that's like a free agent signing or a trade deadline acquisition. If you get any type of input from him or output, I should say, or whatever, it's all good. Like
Folks, Paddy's riding high. I'm going to disagree with a lot of what I got to say, so this is going to be an interesting one because I think I'm viewing this game, similar but from a different viewpoint. So yeah, I'm gonna politely disagree for now, and let's get the credits rolling. And a big shout out to PHG Sports. They're our sponsor. Again, check out their merchandise on www.phgsports.com. And the new thing in podcasting is hit that like and subscribe button now, guys. Before you don't wait till they get to the end. You can do it now. Like and subscribe. DSC podcast coming at you. Titter tatter. Let's get at her. All right, here we are, guys, back from the intro. So,
yeah,
Paddy gave his little take in the intro, and while I wholeheartedly agree with your take on the Mikheyev thing, love it. Because I haven't been a Mikheyev fan. I wish Kylie was here tonight because me and her kind of we've just been so badly waiting for him to. I mean, like any Leafs fan, we've watched a guy, and everyone just knows he's capable of so much more. It's just like he was so badly snake bitten last year, and then the injury derailed him. When he was having a good camp, he looked every bit as good as he does now in camp, and then suddenly, boom, it would a cobra. But yeah, so I agree with you on that take. Do I think that was a good game? I thought it was absolutely putrid in the sense that they were two lucky bounces away from losing 2-0 going in the third period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we always talk about, in those games when we lose, we'll say, some days we'll get a bit of puck luck and we'll win that game. Or sometimes we just need to get a little bit of puck luck. In this game, we did. That's the only thing that separated us from a team, a one-trick pony that was missing their pony. Okay? So the Edmonton Oilers are an old powerhouse in the NHL. They had a powerhouse top line. They were missing their top line center and the best player in the world. And the Leafs kind of rolled out what I thought to be, for 2 periods, incredibly lackluster. I was just watching it and I was kind of bored with their work ethic, with the exception of the exception of the Tavares line, who I thought looked good pretty much all night. They didn't generate a ton of what I would call grade A's, which they generally do. They had a couple where they could have put it in the back of the net, but they were on the puck. I mean, Alex Kerfoot to me is a different player than last year. He's one of my most improved. If I was to give it a most improved player award, it would go to Alex Kerfoot.
Well, he's the most improved for me from the beginning of the season.
Oh yeah.
I always ask the question. I asked one of the boys tonight, like this was more so talking about Nick Ritchie. If you're not out scoring goals, you better be out there hitting and banging and doing all those things. And Kerfoot was in that tweener spot of okay, he wasn't really producing. And he's not the guy that's going to go out and bang and crash anyways. I know he has that speed element. But now he's getting points and he's playing a big part. Like that's what a nice line going into the playoffs. Tavares, Nylander, and Kerfoot. The ability to play up and down the lineup. Like he's been the biggest surprise for me. I gotta say.
I was ready to trade Kerfoot at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let him go now for anything.
Nope.
Like he's the player that you'd need. He's the player you'd be going looking
Yeah.
for come playoff time. But someone who was not afraid to go to the greasy areas, gets in front of the net looking for the. Well, that whole line goes to the greasy areas. Anybody who says
Yes.
that William Nylander is a soft player,
Not even
that narrative got to go away. That's like
Yeah.
saying Crosby's a sucky baby. Let's get over that narrative. It's
That
dead,
was his first year.
right? So yeah, it's a dead issue. This, if anything, right now, Nylander's looking like borderline elite. He's all over the puck constantly,
So
generates
strong.
well, I mean, to me, that's what separates an elite player from your average Joe, is that an elite player can generate something out of nothing. And if there's one player on that team that I'd point to who can generate something out of absolutely nothing, is William Nylander. He'll take because of his puck control. Like Matthews and Marner can generate things out of nothing sometimes, but it's almost like with Nylander, when he's got the puck, when he's got possession, anything's possible. Like he can hold on to it way longer than any player should and make something happen. He can make that elusive pass. You know, he's going to the net for goals. He's scoring goals off the shot. He's doing everything, and I'm so happy to see, because it all goes back to his character. Because if he never had the character and the confidence he's got, he would have bailed on this team a long time ago. Because the media and the fans could have ruined that player. You know, and here he is now, as of tonight, leading the team in scoring. Right. I mean,
he's got a lot of confidence, and you know what? It's not arrogance, because there's a fine line between both. He's confident. He just seems like a genuinely nice guy. He's got genuine confidence, as someone said to me, phrased it before to me. Like there's a lot of things you like about that line, and even back to Kerfoot for a second. Like I was willing to dump him for salary cap reasons, and now he would fetch you a first round pick, if not and more. Like he would be that valuable to so many teams. There's not one player on the team right now that I can say I'm annoyed at. Still don't love the Muzz and Hall here.
That annoys me a lot less than Pierre Engvall. Pierre Engvall's patented move, because I like where I hate on him so much, I got to at least justify my hate. So his patented move in the last 2 games, I've seen him do it now at least 4 to 5 times. Breaking in 2-on-2, breaking in 3-on-2, and going into the corner and curling back.
Yeah.
Curling back once he gets down past the hashtag. And then boom, turn the puck over and it's gone the other way. Like I've just seen absolutely nothing from the guy to justify a spot on the team. Like I genuinely think there's guys with the Marlies who would do a more effective job in the bottom 6 than Pierre Engvall.
That's Robertson and Hosang's spot. Like we shouldn't kid ourselves. I don't know why it hasn't happened yet.
What's going on with Hosang? Like, what is the hold up here? Like, I mean,
no idea.
It's not because he hasn't shown it. I mean,
but nobody are asking the questions. The media, it's never a topic. Like, I would really hate at the end of the day, because he's only got an AHL contract. I would really hate it at the end of the day that they take him this far and they would lose him in the offseason or something like that.
Now,
I like to think they got a plan for him.
You can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if you only signed an AHL deal, there's nothing stopping another organization from coming in and signing you to an NHL contract.
Definitely not. Now, both parties have to sign, of course. So I think with Hosang, you've got to owe something back to the Leafs that they gave him a chance. So I think that's part of it, where a lot of other teams probably would not have. So I guess there's some aspects of that we don't know, some history there, that maybe he's knocked on the doors of teams that said, no, we're not interested in you. So he's probably not going to go back with those, but maybe there's a gentleman's handshake there somewhere.
I'm sure that there's
gotta be a plan.
There is that aspect. There's that aspect, of course, when it comes to offer sheets, where it's one of those things that you just don't do unless you're prepared for the retribution that might come from the team who's able to provide it. And everybody knows that teams like Montreal, teams like Toronto, New York, they got the bucks to make life miserable if they choose to. Yeah. Right, just like Carolina, who didn't have the bucks, but they certainly made life miserable on the Habs only for revenge purposes, you know, which was awesome. And the team has suffered, I think, because of it. I really think they have. They're in a bad spot right now. Well, clearly they're in a bad spot.
They lost their 2 centers, so.
But yeah, so I don't know. Like I said,
I think there's something there. Like for the media in Toronto not to be asking us questions when Hosang is coming up. Now, a part of that as well is that when you're in a, like, we've been winning since the beginning of November. I don't know when that first big streak started, but we've been solidly winning and playing really, really well for 2 months. I know October was a little bit rough. And I always heard, and I think Gilmore said this years ago, or at least I said it, Paddy Phillips said it, that maybe it wasn't Dougie. Maybe I should copyright this. That, you know what happens? Like, you know who are not bad when the Leafs are winning? The media. The media are only bad, and they're only an issue in Toronto when they're losing. Like, when's the last time you saw Steve Simmons or I don't even know, Damian Cox is around, or Myrtle or any of these guys have anything negative to say about the Leafs? It's been a while, probably the beginning of October.
Well, I mean, the last thing that the media hung on to was, we're only getting depth scoring. Our top six is not performing, and then the top six start performing. They're like, oh, now we have no depth scoring, but we were still winning games. It was like the weakest, and everyone was calling on it. Like,
amateur.
Serious? Is this the best you can do?
But now they're getting it now, and Jesus, look at Brody. Holy crap. 3 games in a row. And you know what? I'm so happy for that guy, because he's the one guy on that team. He gets 0 accolades, unless from the hardcore fans who knows that he's doing a big deal out there. Myself, I think he should have been a candidate for Team Canada if they were going to the Olympics. He's that stay-at-home defenseman who's not going to make that mistake. He's not going to cost you anything. Now he's chipping in with offense. Like, I just think what a signing that was last year. He's exactly what we needed.
That might have been one of the best signings in Kyle Dubas tenure.
Oh, no, free agent signing.
I mean, John Tavares clearly is the best one.
Yeah.
But
that took on some risk as well, like a big contract like Tavares, his age.
Yeah.
Brody's contract offered 0 risk.
Yeah. No, I like the TJ Brody signing, man. I go back to, like, and I'm a huge Kadri fan. Okay. Like, I mean, I was always, if they signed him tomorrow, I wouldn't feel one bit bad about, you know what I mean? If they were able to prime it, but he's not moving anywhere unless it's a stick of dynamite. But I keep thinking back to all the rumors were, of course, that deal with TJ Brody was supposed to happen, and Kadri nixed it, right? He wouldn't go out west. So I always wonder, man, how different would that team have looked back when we were just a defenseman away, and we had the goaltending because Freddie was playing at peak. We had goal scoring. You know how. Anyway, what could have been is kind of irrelevant now tonight. But I haven't gotten to, in talking about my dislike for that game, I haven't gotten to the key thing that stood out to me. The key thing that stood out to me was in recent games, recent being, we've only seen one game, I guess, prior to this one, but they scored goals the good old-fashioned way. Like Ray Ferraro says, if you want bread, you go to the store. If you want goals, you go to the net. And they were scoring those dirty playoff-style goals that just looked like they were meant to go in the net because they outworked the other team, right?
Right.
Tonight, there was none of that. None of those goals. The first 2 goals, like I said, they were goals by definition. They crossed the goal line. But
I'll disagree with you. You know what? There was pressure in front of that net at that time. So, and the worst word in the English dictionary is luck, because I truly don't believe in it. I think there's a lot of hard work on both of those goals. Tavares was right there in the crease, and I think Mike Smith knew that. Yes, a lot of luck, and I think hard work led to that. And Marner was in front of the net. I know, like, how many years Leafs never get those bounces. They just never. So I don't think it was pure luck. I think there was a lot more to it than that.
No,
the fact that they're going to the net.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. There were people going to the net when the puck went in. Yeah. Okay. I'll agree to a truce on this one. Because you are correct in what you're saying. And but to me, it was like, I don't know, just the disorganization of it.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Just bland. It was a bland game.
Yeah.
Not a lot of excitement. Like, I think again, having Jack back there, the team is just so confident in him.
I really want to see more out of that Matthews line, man. I mean, again, I'm giving him a waiver for tonight because, 34 was off the ice for a couple of days, just making sure he was good. They haven't played a ton anyway. It's only their second game since like the middle of December.
Yeah.
So I'm giving them all the leeway in the world. They did generate a couple of nice, like they had a
They didn't
couple
get
of nice
grade A
shifts.
chances though.
Yeah. No, nothing that actually, I would say were what you would expect. Marner made some slick passes tonight, man.
He
They
did,
didn't, they,
yeah.
they didn't turn into nothing, but uh,
I don't
he
worry about that line.
I'm not worried about him, but I just want to
No.
see more. Like I'm so addicted to the boys playing. I and whenever the problem with it is me as a rational fan and a guy who knows the game reasonably well, or at least I think I do, um, tells me that everything's gonna be fine, which is true. The unrational, damaged Leafs fan inside says, they didn't score tonight. Is Michael Bunting right for that line? Like that's stupid stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like clearly okay, no one's going to argue that Michael Bunting's skill level is probably not in the same category as Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. That's why they got him for less than $1 million, right? So
Right.
when he can't handle the hot pass or when he makes a poor decision, we can't exactly throw him under the bus because he's not
He's
he's
yeah.
not at that pay grade. You know what I mean?
He's gonna do
So
more good things than bad.
exactly. I'm glad you put it that way because that is the ultimate
Yeah.
truth of this is that it's kind of like in the Jake Gardner area. You got to take the bad and the good and then average it out. It's just you hope that the bad is not going to be in overtime in the playoffs, which is
Right.
unfortunately what sealed Gardner's fate, right? So I
But
still think Jake Gardner was a good player and I still like him.
yeah,
But
the other
he's
factor tonight, and the reason why I think you probably didn't get the grade A chances from Matthews and Marner, I think is the McDavid factor because they have traditionally played really good when McDavid's in that lineup. And I mean to the point. Remember that 3-game series in Edmonton last year where he swept them, I think 5-1, 6-0 in those big games. I don't know who's centering the top line tonight. Maybe it was Yamamoto or whatever. I think Yamamoto probably more of a defensive aspect of the game. Probably was a little bit tighter on those guys, whereas McDavid is not out there playing Matthews man to man by no means.
no.
So I think there's that element, and I Edmonton probably stepped up their game. Geez, I always remember back in I think it was 2002 when Sundin was with the Leafs, of course, and they went on that run. I think Ottawa first round, Islanders second round, and lost New Jersey probably in the third round, I think. Oh no, Carolina, sorry. And Sundin goes down in that late Ottawa series, I think. Wasn't available for the Islanders. And they played so well in that playoffs. Alan McCauley. Geez, I'm going off on a tangent now, but McCauley stepped up big then. Sundin comes back against Carolina.
Yeah.
I think they probably depended on him too much.
Now, was that the same time that Nathan Dempsey got called up? Or am I thinking
Probably.
playoffs?
Oh, it definitely would be. Yeah, it
They
was
were
around
missing a
that
bunch
time.
of players, and they brought up. I think Potter Konofsky wasn't with the team at the time. They brought him up from the Leafs.
Yeah,
And he just stuck. The rest of the boys came up like Nate Dempsey came up and he looked good on the back end in the playoffs. And then Ty Domi was out too. Like there's a bunch of guys who were regulars who weren't in the lineup, right?
yeah.
But yeah. No, that's
But I think the second there and the third there players for Edmonton tonight probably stepped up more, knowing that McDavid wasn't there. You probably got to do a little bit more. I think there's a bit of dependence. So I've got no problems with Matthews. Like I just bought his hockey stick, so I can't really have too much of an issue with him.
Yeah. But you will agree with me on this, okay? I'm telling you will, so you must. For a team as depleted and playing as poorly as the Edmonton Oilers, wouldn't you like to have seen more out of the Leafs offensively?
I would have, but they showed that against Ottawa. I think it was just a different game. It was very even. With those things happen, like remember when Vancouver came out of COVID last year and hadn't played and they were down and they gave it to the Leafs that game. I think those things happen. I don't see. I thought Marner played really well tonight. Like a lot of slick moves. He was all over the ice.
Well, he looked good. That post was just, I mean, quarter of an inch the other way, and he scores, right? So
yeah, I can't say there was a player that I was disappointed. It was just a May game. Like I don't know. It doesn't worry me at all. I'm glad it came with the point.
I'm not worried, but like I said, when I look at the Oilers who are struggling and who are not deep to begin with because of their situation, and they're missing their top two centers, and we're supposed to be this forward powerhouse team with
Yeah.
two of the best top lines that you can put together on a single team. That's supposed to be our MO. And they're missing their top two centers and their number one and the best player in the world being one of them. To me, that just screams, okay, this should have been 5-2. This should have been, I don't know, 6-7-1. Some kind of a fairly lopsided competition, right?
Should have been.
And when it goes back to the fact that two of those goals went in the way that they did, I think that just kind of tainted me a bit. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, like ideally after the game, Keefe says, "Yep, great, we got the 2 points. Probably could have played a whole lot better." And I love having those. I love getting the 2 points, even though we didn't play great. Like those 2 points are going to be useful at the end of the season.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I think even Matthews in the power play. They say double clutch. That was a bad Marner pass. I think that was on the power play. That was a bad pass. He had to reach back. Like he never really had a lot of open room tonight. I think Edmonton played a very good defensive game.
I don't know if I can properly describe the pass too, so you'll remember it, because it was one of the best passes in the game. But it was, it might have been on their first power play, or was it? I can't remember. In any case, Marner broke into the zone and was almost behind the net when he made the pass back up the middle and hit Matthews coming down. Matthews was trailing late and ripped it, but he ripped it high and wide. Yeah. Man, I mean, even in slow motion, I was like, how did he have that vision to make that pass? It's just, he's so ridiculously skilled. The way he sees the ice, it's almost like he got a panoramic view. I don't know. Marner is just insane.
To take it on a different tangent for a second, I still think about Evander Kane on this team.
Oh, give up on Kane.
No,
good Lord, come on.
You take away the extracurricular stuff.
All right, boys.
He's gotten on with.
Turn off the podcast, boys. We're going off on a tangent here now.
But he's exactly what he's a casual type player.
Go watch Spittin' Chicklets, boys. Like they'll give you some worthwhile content here. Paddy is just killing us with Evander Kane.
I know. I think you put him. You can put him anywhere. You put him on the top line. Bunting goes down. I don't know if it'll ever. It probably won't happen. I think it's a complex salary type move, but
that's tangled. Yeah.
Like you'll start seeing something like that happen when you see Richie and these guys put on waivers, and I don't know if that will happen, but I see that he can do everything. Evander Kane,
he can. Again, Kane's MO is around the same issues as Ho-Sang, is what are you getting in a player, what effect is it going to have on your group, and because apparently the Leafs are noted for having a really, really tight group, right? So I don't know. I'm sure if anybody's cognizant of that, it will be called Dubas. So,
like you bring Kane into that dressing room, like you've got Muzzin there, you've got Tavares, you've got Simmons. Like he's not going to be the tool that he's always been. At least I don't think so. Maybe
I would hope not. I don't know. I would hope by now he's had a swift dose of reality as well, which is a big part of his maturing, undoubtedly. So again, players change, times change. As players get older, they can see the big picture, i.e. Jason Spezza. Spezza's going to play with the Leafs as long as they're going to give him a contract. Well, it's a cool concept. An assistant coach who can still score. I like it.
Oh, what's his name? Joel Quenneville, back to the player coach back for the St. John's Leafs.
I mean, that's what you got in Jason Spezza, as an assistant coach who can score.
Oh, no doubt. So easy to see.
Yeah. I love the guy. Guy.
If we look back, when we win the cup this year, we're going to look back at some of the moves that Dubas made, and that's going to be top 3, if not the top, that you were able to get that type of production, that type of leadership out of a guy for making 850,000 or 750 with no bonuses.
League win.
But every team has one. I don't think they all have a Jason Spezza, but they have that type of. That type of player.
Have you noticed that the talk since Babcock left? And I'm going to get to Babcock now in a second when we'll clue up. But have you noticed that since Babcock left, the protecting Jason Spezza's minutes, that's no longer a conversation topic?
You don't have to protect him.
I don't think so either. They're like, oh well, maybe some nights we'll sit him, and I mean he's only playing 7 minutes a night anyway, 10 minutes a night. Like he's not on a busy night. On a busy night, Spezza's out for 12 minutes. Yeah, and he doesn't look at a place or winded or gassed. He looks to be in peak physical, as far as I'm concerned. So that whole narrative has just gone away.
Well, the fact that he's the one that gets the drop pass on the second power play unit to rush it up the ice like Marner or Matthews does, or Nylander, whomever, like that says a lot. Incredible value for that contract. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think again at trade deadline time, you probably won't see a Nick Foligno come in this year. I don't think that type of player. I think they'd be going a little bit. I can't see him spend it. I don't know, for Evander Kane maybe.
God. Okay, moving on. I got one more question for you. We're gonna knock this on the head. So I seen a tweet today, and I'd love to be able to take credit for this because it's so clever and it's right up my kind of twisted humor. But anyway, the tweet read, "So will the Oilers take the full Babcock or just the Tippett?" And I thought that was hilarious.
That
So
was hilarious.
my question to you is, based on that tweet, we know what they're getting at. Tippett is on thin ice. They panned to Ken Holland a bunch of times there tonight in the GM's box. He looks like death warmed over. He looks ill. And I mean he's wearing this clearly. This trouble his team is having, and all the media buzz around it because there's nothing else to talk about. So let's talk about how bad the Oilers are. But yeah, so Babcock's name has been brought up. We would want to beat it to death. But what would you think about Babs making a return to the NHL? What's your take?
If anyone's going to do it, it's probably Ken Holland. I think in the world that we live in now, and a little bit more sensitivity and all those things for some of the things that he did, like I don't think too many teams will be going to hire Babcock. And you know what? The guy didn't really have a ton of success in his career. I know let's leave Team Canada out for now because we could have coached that. I know he was the guy that did it. But I don't think, just talk about Edmonton, like Tippett's not the problem there. McDavid and Draisaitl are not. Like, this is on Ken Holland and the GMs before him, because they've had a glaring issue for at least 3 years, goaltending. And they have done zero about it. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to pay dearly now. Mark Spector on Sportsnet today had a article where he's 6 goalie options for Edmonton. Not one of those goalies are going to bring them to the promised land. Not one of them. Like, Fleury was at the top of it. He may, but you're looking at some of these other guys are just not going to do it. This is on. They've got a depth problem, which wasn't at the beginning of the year. In my mind, they have zero chance of winning a cup or coming anywhere close to it in McDavid or Draisaitl's time.
Yeah, and while everyone is squarely focused on the goaltending because that is the obvious problem, put what goaltender you like there in front of that defense, and they're going to struggle. I don't care who it is. If they traded tomorrow for Carey Price, a healthy Carey Price, I mean Carey Price is unquestionably the best goalie in the world, in my opinion.
Should have did that 5 years ago.
Yeah, well, yes, there's that. But my point is, if he was an Edmonton Oiler tomorrow in peak Carey Price form, he'd still be letting in anywhere between 2 and 3 goals a night, guaranteed. He's not going to stand on his head every single night because, I mean, you look at some of what even the Leafs had in what I described as a lackluster game. They lacked a lot of that drive that I would have liked, that intensity that I would have liked to have seen to just let's just stomp these guys out. I didn't really get that feeling. But even tonight, there were several times that don't matter who you had in net there, there were grade A scoring opportunities that just happened to hit a post. I mean, we had 4 posts tonight. You know what I mean? Like, the pucks are getting by the defenseman first. You know what I mean?
It's a big guy.
Yeah.
So, I think they're in a world of hurt. I said it to a buddy today. How do you even try to make that team better? Because they don't really have tradable contracts. You've got Nugent Hopkins signed to a big deal now. Like what are you going to do with who are you going to trade Nugent Hopkins for? Like, you're not going to want to trade McDavid or Draisaitl. You're not trading Nurse. Like, so who else actually holds value on that team to improve it? They've tried through free agency. They're going to pay dearly again with the Hyman contract. Love the guy, but the Leafs have been able to get that production out of $1 million player in Bunting. I right now, if I was to rank the Canadian teams, not in terms of standings, but where they are and where they potentially will be in 3 years, I rank Montreal's probably the lowest because they don't have really a lot of depth coming up or anything. Edmonton's just above them. Because even when Vancouver were struggling, Vancouver still had the core players there. Ottawa should have a good team. They've got a goaltending problem there as well.
Both Vancouver and Ottawa are incredibly young. Like they put me in mind where we were 4 years ago with the Leafs, right? I mean, you look at that core out in Vancouver, man. Like, how much more talent do you want?
They
Talent
should
is not the
compete.
problem,
They
right?
should compete.
Yeah.
Like it's, but with Edmonton, like you've got upper society, and you've got lower society. You've got nothing in between.
Yeah.
They have nothing there of value that you can trade, like Bouchard. But Evan Bouchard looked like your best defenseman tonight.
Hard to argue that.
Like how do you,
Because he did, and that's a mouthful. Because I didn't think he had that good of a game, but he was one of their better. So I mean, yeah, I mean, COVID plays a big part in all this too. I mean, you
but
were
there
missing Tyson Berry tonight, which is whatever he is or isn't. That's
he
a
hasn't
big
had a
hole.
good season.
You know, he hasn't had a good season, but it's a big hole.
No,
It's a guy who eats 20, 24 minutes a night.
yeah,
So they were missing, that end two of their top two centers. So, but yeah, I mean, I agree. Back to the initial question about the Babcock, whether I don't believe the Mike Babcock who left the NHL and the Mike Babcock who's going to come out of Saskatchewan where he's coaching now. I don't believe that there's been a change in that person.
no.
I really don't, and unless the character is, unless he's taken a long time to reevaluate how to handle this current generation of players. They're not, you can't handle these guys the way you handled Chris Chelios. I'm sorry, you can't, right? So unless he's had an awakening by going back to his roots and coaching the young kids, that's what he's doing. He's coaching teenagers, right? Guys in their early 20s. And I'm hoping that was part of his attempt to get back in touch with what he needs to do. Because as a coach goes, I'm sure he's an effective guy. He's been to the show. He's won a cup. He's coached the best players in the world. He's certainly capable of coaching at the NHL level. I'm not disputing that. Should he is the question. So
Yeah, you know what? Like I think he'll be too arrogant. He's an arrogant guy.
yeah.
But quite frankly, back to the player issue. Like I don't think they have a skill set on that team that, like, how much more are you going to get out of a Jesse Puljujarvi or a Warren Fogle, or go down the line, all these guys? I don't think it's there. I don't think they have the team on paper to do anything. And any good that they've done, any success that they've had, has solely been because of McDavid and Draisaitl, two players. Everybody talks about the Leafs being top heavy with four players. Well, they're top heavy with two players, and it drops off significantly. Like their second line is not as good as our third line, in my mind.
No, I would completely argue with you on that one, 100%. Our third line and I mean a healthy second line too. When you got Nugent Hopkins centering the second line, I still would place our third line, and that's a mouthful for me. And I know that's a lot of bias, and people are like, "Oh yeah, you guys are just homers," but if you look at the stats and you look at the zone time and possession time of our third line compared to the second line of the Oilers, you might be surprised. So I challenge you to go have a look at that.
It will never happen because of marketing and McDavid and Draisaitl. And I said the same thing about Montreal when they had Price. The only way they're going to win is if they trade their $10 million player, bring back enough assets, rebuild. It's been a number of years. I don't care about last year, Montreal going to the finals. That didn't happen in my mind. But like, they should have traded Carey Price. And I know from a business perspective, it's not easy to do that. But there was three teams 3 or 4 years ago that would have offered up a lot for Price, and that was Edmonton, Calgary, and New York Islanders. There were three teams that had the cap space to do it, had the players that you could send the other way, like a Monahan in Calgary and all this kind of stuff, but just didn't do it. Edmonton will never win. There's 20 teams better than them right now, in my mind.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Well, I think on that note, talking about trades and big trades and everything else, I think we'll finish off by just saluting the fact that we just passed the anniversary of 30. I think it was the 30-year anniversary.
30, yeah.
The biggest trade in NHL history. And when I say biggest, I mean most players involved. 10-player trade, which brought Dougie Gilmour, the killer, to Toronto. My favorite
Don't
player
forget Jamie
growing up.
Macoun. He was the boy. He was the man.
True. Mr. Macoun. Yep. No. Again, a big shout out to a Leafs management system that actually went out and did something which I thought was well outside the box at the time. and really owned up to the fans who deserved it at the time. So, yeah, big shout out to Dougie. Oh, God, I'd love to get Doug on the podcast.
I got a true story. You know what? You want to hear a true story?
Most of your
Jamie
stories,
Macoun?
I assume, are not true. So go ahead.
I was 16 in Toronto on vacation, and my uncle actually knew where Jamie Macoun lived, and he said, "Do you want to go see him?" I said, "Oh my God, Jamie Macoun, loved the guy, like so underappreciated on that
Oh, yeah,
92,
awesome.
93, 93, 94 team. Like Gilmore was huge in that trade, but McCown was number 2 in my mind. Rick Natras, those guys, Kent Manderville, um, Michel Petit. I know all 10 players in that trade. Anyway, so I said, yeah. So we go knock on his door, and he's over. His wife answers, and apparently McCown is over in England. I think that following year, or I think that year they were getting ready for training camp, and he started in England. So he wasn't home. But anyway, she went and got his jersey. I put it on, got a picture with her and all that good stuff. But that's my liking for Jamie McCown, because his wife was awesome. That is, you can't make that stuff up, buddy.
No, that's true. Like,
You not make it up.
if I was going to make up a story, I would have made up one far better than that too.
Yeah, I know.
No, that's
Like,
good. That's good. Actually, I like that, because that's the most Paddy thing that I would expect, is for you to get tangled up with one of the players' wives. So yeah,
yeah.
fair enough. Shout out to McCown's missus.
Hopefully she's listening.
Hopefully she's listening. Yeah. No, well, guys, that'll put a wrap on this one. That was a great way to finish. Actually, I enjoyed that. So yeah, if you've liked our content, like I said at the very beginning of the show, like and subscribe, give it a share, all that good stuff. It takes you 2 seconds, shows a little bit of support for some guys who are trying to do something. So yeah, we've got some good stuff in the. We got some buns in the oven per se. Things that are some coffee percolating. Some neat stuff coming up that I think you guys will enjoy. So we'll be announcing some of that now soon too. Our new writer Tim, his second article is coming out really soon. It's got a little bit of Newfoundland flavor to it, which for any of you guys who are away, who enjoy our podcast, I know there's a few newfies up along who watch our podcast. You'll enjoy that one. And for any of you referee types out there who enjoy that side of the game and digging into the mindset, Tim has did an interview with the local ref, and I won't say too much more. It's a fantastic article, and that one will be coming your way too now very shortly. As well, big shout out to Paul Loader, our graphics coordinator, design guy. Paul's killing it as per usual with his design work. So big shout out to Paul and everybody else at DSC, of course, Kylie, Chad, and of course Paddy and myself. So yeah, if you're looking for more content, facebook.com/DeekSnipeSelly. On Twitter at SellyDeek, and of course on www.deeksnipeselly.ca. I try to funnel everything through our webpage as well. So anything you miss on Facebook, you can always scroll back through deeksnipeselly.ca. Paddy, did you have the wherewithal to look to see where our sponsor is?
I did.
All right.
PHG Sports from January 4th to the 16th will be at the Northwest Costco Downsview in Yorkdale, Ontario, of course.
You know what?
No idea where that's at, but
you know, normally when I get the update where PhD is, I know where they are. Like, oh, they're in Peterborough, or they're Hamilton, or they're in that one I seen today. I seen the update as well, and I was like,
yeah.
I guess it's like if you told somebody in Ontario that next week DSC podcast is going to be broadcasting from Nanny's Hole, they'd be like, what? Where is that? It's a place, folks. It's a place. All right, guys. Yep. So PhD Sports is our sponsor. They're the #1 supplier for hand sign memorabilia to Costco Canada. They've been doing so for over 10 years. Quality guys working there. Even if you're not interested in purchasing, swing by for a chat. Some of the coolest guys you'll ever meet. They've been great to us over the years, and we try to repay the favor whenever we can afford to. So, again, visit PHG Sports for all your needs. As well, if you can't make it out to their Costco Roadshow, make sure to check them out online, www.phgsports.com. PHG Sports, that's where the pros sign. All right, I'm good, Paddy. Like I said, to anyone out there listening, make sure you do the same thing. Subscribe to the DSC podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. The list is infinite. And our listening audience, of course, is always on the climb. So thank you very much for tuning in. But we can't drag this out any longer. I don't think so. Unless you got anything else, man, I'm ready to shut her down.
No, Jamie Macoun is the second best 34 in Leafs history. That's all I'm out.
Paddy out. Peace out, guys.